Are we all ready? Cameras on, please. Just waiting for Rosalinda and Senna's camera. Okay, are we all ready? Are we ready?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay. So we're going live on Facebook now. So, yeah. So good evening, ladies. Thank you so much for taking your time out to join us today on this event. My name is Sandra, part of the Explorers Club, and I'm going to hand you over to our co-host, Senna, who will take us further on this journey.
Hello, everyone. Hello, guys.
Hey, Sana. Hi.
Can you hear me?
Hi.
Ready, Senna?
Good evening,
Yes,
ladies.
we can hear you. Good evening.
Good evening. Can everybody hear me, please?
Yes.
Okay. So my name is Sana. I'm a member of the Explorers Club.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you all.
Can hear you.
Great.
Hello.
Nice to meet you, Sana.
Hi, Sana. We can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. So the Explorers Club is a youth-led travel organization that seeks to promote the sustainable development goals through sustainable tourism. And we also have a vision of impacting lives through the SDG Aligned project. And as part of our missions this year, we wanted to celebrate all the international UN days and kind of engage the youth to have conversations around them. So today happens to be one of the days, and it's the International Day of Zero Tolerance for Female Genital Mutilation. And that is why we are here tonight. So if I can go ahead, some people don't know what the FGM is. Our viewers and the people watching us, maybe someone doesn't know what FGM is. And it's just the complete or the partial removal of the female external genitalia. And it's practiced all over the world, but it's mostly in 30 countries so far. It's predominantly in 30 countries, which includes Sierra Leone, Egypt, Guinea, and Ghana. And in Ghana, it's practiced mostly at the northern region and then the upper east region of the country. And they usually do this to females that are ready to get married. So they want them to kind of stay chaste before they get married. So they remove a part or they completely remove their external genitalia so they don't have to have sex. So tonight we are here to either discuss the pros and the cons of this practice, to know whether it's actually a good practice or it's an abuse or it's having any effects on the female. So our panelists are going to go in depth on the discussion so they can give us more insight and knowledge and tell us more about female genital mutilation and whether we have to go ahead with it or we have to end it. So that's why we are here. Thank you, guys. Yeah, so I'll hand you over to my host or my co-host, Sandra, to take you through the discussion.
Okay. Great. So firstly, before we actually continue, I'd like everyone to just introduce themselves, their names, what they do, and just an interesting fact about themselves. So I'll start. Again, my name is Sandra. I completed my undergrad last year in education studies. I'm currently doing my PGC, which is postgrad certificate in education, for my teacher training. And an interesting fact, I sing. I love singing, so I sing everywhere I go. So you get that in your ears quite a lot. So let's go to Diane, please.
Okay. So my name is Diane Apusu, and I am the founder of YSDGs. I'm also a blogger and a digital marketer, right? And one fun fact about me, I would say that I'm absolutely intrigued by the SDGs. I'm very passionate about the SDGs.
Awesome, great. Let's go to Priscilla, please.
Hi everyone again. My name is Priscilla Ajay Mensah. I completed my master's in clinical psychology just a few months ago, and I'm currently in training to become a certified clinical psychologist. I'm also the co-president of Period at Accra, Ghana, which is a youth-led organization that is geared towards ending period poverty and period stigma through service, education, and advocacy. So one interesting fact about me is that I love to dance as well. So bring on salsa, bring on kizomba, and you'd see me there.
Awesome, thank you. Rosalinda, please.
Hi guys, I'm Rosalinda Nyamagana, and
Hi.
I completed my law degree in Central University 2019. I currently work with CAMFED, that is Campaign for Female Education, as a transition facilitator, as well as running my business and my own organization on the side. My business, Nerium Agro Ventures, we are into agriculture, and luckily we got to represent Ghana, that's Central and Western Africa, in Brazil at the Youth AG Summit. And also running my own non-governmental organization called Team Spirit. We are empowering young women, especially teenage girls who dropped out of school as a result of pregnancy, to find their own financial dependency through giving them skill training, putting them into apprenticeship programs, and a lot. Currently, we have like 25 girls on the program, and we are hoping to reach out to more in the near future. I'm a professional baker. That's the fun thing about me. I'm a baker and I love to do anything. I braid my own hair. I do most of the things you see on me myself.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. Dorcas, please.
All right, that's so cool. Like, oh my God, that's so much of things that you do for yourself. Hi everyone. My name is Dorcas
Hi,
Manoke
Dr.
Agwe. Hi. Let me say, I work with the United Nations Population Fund Ghana office. I hold a master's in public health and also volunteer with PPAG, as well as the African Ghana, where I contribute my quota. I don't own a personal business. I haven't started blogging yet. I hope to start that soon. I hope to get some tips from Diane on how to blog and to do it better moving forward. And fun thing about me, I love to sing and I love to cook as well.
Awesome. Great. So let's just get right into it. So I suppose my first question would be, do you think FGM is a form of abuse? Yes or no, and why? So I'll go to Priscilla, please.
This is a very interesting question because prior to the meeting, I had a conversation with a friend, and I was asking, it was a guy actually, so I was asking him if he thought FGM was an abuse. And the first thing he said was, if the person who is receiving that treatment did not intentionally or did not agree to it, then it's an abuse in a way, because he feels like at the end of the day, it's your body and you should be able to give permission as to what should be done to your body. So if people are being circumcised or if people are being mutilated against their will, it is definitely an abuse.
Okay, great. Thank you. Diane, what do you think?
Just to add to what Priscilla said, right? When when it comes to consent, right? When it comes to consent, these are people that, let's say, some of them are below 18, and they can't actually give that consent, right? And so I think that it's definitely an abuse if you haven't, I mean, lawfully said for it. So I absolutely think it's definitely an abuse, abuse everywhere. No, it's not. Yeah.
Okay, great. We'll go to Dorcas, please. What do you think?
Well, I think my earlier speakers have said it all, but to us, to the practitioners, they see it to be an inherited culture that we need to uphold onto it. So if you talk to them about it, why are you treating this person badly? You are causing pain. Then you go like, how about tradition? Our ancestors did A, B, and C, and we need to follow through and make sure that we maintain the tradition that we came to meet by, or that was being practiced by our predecessors. But of course, the bottom line is it's abuse. FGM have been shielded with the name of, or in the name of culture. It's our tradition. This is what we came to meet, and we need to maintain the inheritance. But hey, we cannot run away from the fact that it is an abuse. And I'm not sure any of the women or anyone who is being subjected to this practice is or was ever happy with it. Even at the point of she saying no, she was denied the opportunity to say, to live with what she or what she was saying, that no, because in the name of culture, in the name of tradition, we came to meet it. Our forefathers did it. My grandmom did it. My mom did it, and it's your turn. You need to do it. So then the person is left with nothing else. But then the truth of the matter is that it's an abuse, and we need to end it. Yeah.
And Rosalinda.
All right, thank you so much. I'm so glad I got to listen to everyone before I gave my opinion. Yeah, almost like everyone had a bit of what I wanted to say. But just to add up to that, yeah. So basically, we all grew up in a culture where we are trained about certain things. We are told not to do this. We are told to do this. This is right. And gradually, we grew up thinking that yes, this is the right thing to do. So when we are talking about female genital mutilation, as to whether it is an abuse, definitely it is. But this is where I draw my conclusion from. The fact that somebody might have consented to something which is inhumane, which is outmoded, doesn't make it right. Probably it is because the culture in which they grew up thinking that yes, to pride yourself as a woman or to prove your worth as a woman, you need to show that yes, you were circumcised or you are a virgin and all these things. And gradually our mindsets, and most women, I remember someone telling me that during those days, women actually pride themselves about being virgins, about being circumcised, about, sorry, being mutilated. And now things have changed. I always tell people about the fact that evolution, we have come to a time that we have realized that the things that they were doing weren't actually human. It degrades the female. There's a lot of things that women have suffered from. And how can we help women how can we make things right as human beings, not just because we are women asking for our rights, but because we feel that we are also human. So definitely it is an abuse, no matter whether or not the person undergoing it consented or not. But as definitely the person, however, was brainwashed to believe that it is right. Thank you.
Can I hand you over to Stena?
Dorcas.
Hi.
Yeah, so most of the speakers spoke about how abusive FGM is and how it's inhuman and all that. So can you please tell us some of the types that we have? I read that we have 4 types, and some we sew everything, some we remove parts of the genitalia, and some we just leave some part of it. So can you please like go in depth about the types of FGM we have? And yeah.
Great. So that was really a sharp one. So yes, of course, we have 4 types, as you rightly said. And one, okay, the first one is when the clit, just the clit, as we all know, when you look at the woman reproductive organ, okay, or with the opening of the vulva, as a woman, we sometimes sit or we squat to see what's happening down there. I don't know how many of us have taken the pain to explore or to see what's or how our reproductive organ looks like. But if you look at attention, you realize that there's this thing that pops out in between the two labias, the majora and the minora. So inside, the thick one or the little one that pops out there is a clitoris. Now, the partial removal of the clit is when just that bit of the clit is cut off, okay? And with that one, it gives you at least, it's not the total removal of the surface or the vaginal opening as we usually call it, but then just that one. And that one is like a measure of nerves of tissues that comes together to make the clit. And that part is very sensitive. And the sensitivity of it is what gives a woman the pleasure during sexual intercourse. Now, then the second one is another partial removal, but then that one includes the removal of the clit plus the majora. The majora is the bigger opening of the vulva, okay? And then the total removal includes the removal of the clit, the majora, and then the inner vaginal lips, or let's say the minora. Okay, and people go to the extent of sealing it or sewing the vaginal opening, leaving just a little space for the girl to pee or urinate. Okay, and when this happens, it means like the whole vulva of the woman or the girl is taken off. Please, are we together? Am I speaking to myself alone?
No, we're just on mute.
We are listening to you. Yeah. We are learning.
So when that happens, you can see that in as much, usually when you squat, you should have a little bit of opening down there in addition to your anus. However, when the circumcision is made and then the whole vulva is sewn and sealed, you just left a little hole in between your labs and then the little anus space down there. And imagine a girl or a woman having sexual intercourse through that little opening. That is punishment. That is like extreme punishment. Denying the woman the opportunity to explore, enjoy her clitoris, be able to enjoy sexual intercourse with her partner, deny her access to the vaginal opening where she could easily have a feel and appreciate her womanhood, and taking everything off and leaving her with just a little space. All in the name of denying her or restricting her from what? Being sexually aroused or having sexual pleasure so that she could wait for a man to marry her. Really?
Yeah. Not easy. Okay. We'll ask Priscilla, do you have anything to add to what Dorcas has said?
I was actually like, how do I even put it? I was just imagining going through like a similar process. And I like the fact that after she's finished talking, she left like a pause for everything to sink in. So I was like, oh my days, this is really serious. And I feel like even as a society, for people that do not have these practices in their cultures, we kind of see this as a distant thing that happens to people somewhere, and we don't really take the time to appreciate what actually goes on. So I feel like for people that are not going through this, we should be the ones who should speak more about it, because these friends or these sisters can't do so for themselves, I know there's so many personal stories that I've heard where it was just not up to them at that point, because you're born into the family and probably the head of the family says every young girl in this family has to go through this process. So you can't really say anything about it. People go to the extent of having to run away from home just to escape this trauma. So that goes to tell you that it's really something that has been ingrained in our society or in specific cultures for so long.
Yeah.
And if these people are genuinely trying to run away from this just because of how painful or how traumatic it is, then it means that conversations should be had in this regard on how to raise awareness on stopping these practices. Because I believe that abstinence is a choice.
Yeah.
There are some people who might probably go through this process and would still end up probably pregnant before the time they get married. So it doesn't necessarily stop you
Do anything.
from exploring yourself sexually. It's just a means of punishing you for something you haven't even done. And I think it is very wrong. So thank you, Dorcas, for throwing more light on that and helping us understand, get an in-depth feel of what it feels like to go through such a process.
Great. Rosalinda, what do you have to add? If you're there.
Actually, I kind of agree with what everyone. I'll just wait for the next question.
Oh, okay. Diane?
Hi. So I mean, we've talked about a lot right now, and I mean, just sitting down to think about it is very emotional. Just to think of what they go through, right? And I like to also mention that when we are having conversations like this, we shouldn't just limit it to just women, right? We should try and get men involved in the conversation, because I mean, in our African culture, in an African setting, we believe that the man is actually the head of the house, right? So if the man is the head of the house, let's get the men involved. Let's get the men involved. Let's get them to understand what this means to this young lady, this daughter of theirs, what it means. And I mean, they need to understand that it's not just a female or a gendered conversation. We've gone beyond that level. And I feel like we always hear about this. It's in our textbook. We've heard about it. We talk about it, but how many of us have really sat down to think in depth on how we can play a role in this, how we can try and impact people positively? I think we've talked about it a lot. And even in the Constitution of Ghana, the law stands strongly against FGM. But still, we see these things being done in these places. So it's high time that we get people involved. It's high time we get the men involved, because I feel like anytime it has to do with gender equality, it has to do with, female genital mutilation, it's always the women. It's always the women having the conversation. Let's bring the men on board. And I think next time, maybe when we are going to have something like this again, I'll even suggest that we have a panelist that's a man or a couple of men on this platform, so that it will echo what we want to talk about.
Great. Thank you so much for your So the next question that I was going to ask is, with it all being so, I'm still like amazed at how Dorcas described everything. So with it being so, so like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's just a strange thing imagining it. Does it have any health consequences? And is it hygienic? That's the question I would ask. Is it hygienic, and does it have any health consequences in terms of maybe infections or something else? So we'll start with Dorcas, please.
Definitely. I'm sure most of us have witnessed, if not in person, we've seen videos on how these acts are being performed or meted out on women and girls. And certainly they are not done in a very hygienic conditions. Women, it will amaze you that the same tool that is used on person A is the same tool that will be used on person B, because it is ritual, it is traditional, and it goes on and on to the same people. And the cycle goes on, and then it comes back to meet the next generation. And if care is not taken, then one tool that has been used from 10 decades ago or a decade ago, the same tool will be used in this current time. And we're even aware that people use blade and even tools like broken bottles, because in the heat of the moment, just to avoid a girl from running away or from preventing someone to coming in to save her, any sharp object that they find around is used to perform the act. So then you can imagine the situation is not hygienic, it's not performed within a conducive place. I was just comparing this practice to male circumcision, and I realized that they are not even being fair to the female. And male circumcision is done in a legalized situation, even in hospitals, but FGM is never practiced in hospital, meaning that the female is not just denied of her dignity, but she's also introduced to infections. What is assurance that this tool that is being used is not infected with HIV? What is assurance that we have that at the end of the day, this girl will not bleed to death? What's the assurance that we have that, well, someone was able to deliver safely out of FGM? What's the assurance that this next girl will be able to have safe and sound delivery and should be able to live healthy with a safe baby as well?
Yeah.
So all these things purpose make us understand that it's really not appropriate. We are not being fair to the female sex, the gender, as in totality, right from inception to birth, delivering everything. And now you're adding FGM to it. Not the act alone is harmful to her, but that the process is not safe, medically not advisable. And the worst of it all is the future consequences that comes with it. The bleeding to death, the infection, and then the possibility of suffering from fistula, obstetric fistula during childbirth in future, and the likes. It's not medically wise. It's not safe, it's not healthy, and nothing should be done to endorse this. Thankfully, it's not in the law. The legal system does not endorse this. But people are finding ways and means to get this thing done secretly, which we need to find ways and means to report them and get them arrested. I think they deserve to be punished and sued. It's so not cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so Priscilla, what do you also think about the hygiene and then the health consequences?
Yes, as Dorcas rightfully said, I feel like the practice in itself is not done by the right processes. So, for instance, as she compared to how males are circumcised, they're taken to the hospital probably like between the time of birth, like maybe a few weeks afterwards, and it's done under a hygienic condition. These girls are subjected to being put in weird dark rooms and just like forcefully opened up, and old women with knives, not even knowing like the right places to cut, just cutting it. And I feel like it comes with so many health implications, because normally these young girls go through these experiences from the time they're like 5 years right until the time of puberty. And you can imagine going through this kind of pain at a very young age and probably not even going through the right processes of treatment afterwards. It stays on with them till the time they get married. And it has, aside from even physical side effects, there's so many mental health effects that are attached to these processes. I know there's going to be a question about it later, so I'll wait and then touch on that later. But then I think it's something that should be done rightly if it was supposed to be beneficial to these young people. There's a reason why it got to a point the law was against it, because they realized that the cons outweighed the pros. So there's no way people who have even survived this have come out to say that it was good for them. It's been very few people. I'm sure, I know some people would probably understand that, well, it's a rite of passage, maybe according to culture, they would try to play the devil's advocate and say it had to be done even though it was a bad experience. But if you have to calculate, I'll probably say that way more people are against it, especially those who have gone through it. They're against it and wouldn't wish that for their kids or for any other young girl. So these things should be talked about and dealt with appropriately.
Okay. Diane?
Okay. I mean, the panelists have said a lot, and I think the only thing that I'll add to this is that just imagine after going through this process, and then they tie you down for like a week. They tie your from your hip to your knee, or to your ankle. They tie you down for like a week while you are in pain. You have, I mean, you've practically been, would I say, I don't even know the words to use right now, but it's just so bad to the point that even some of these women cannot have children after this whole process. And they tend to, I mean, it's just inhumane. Like sometimes we need to put ourselves in some, it's okay, it's a rite of passage, but no, this is way too much. This is gone beyond, I mean, what we all know. I mean, I think I'm getting more emotional as we discuss this, because
Yeah.
it's just really bad. It's just really bad. And so the health implications, there's nothing good that comes out of it. They will tell you that positives. There are no positives medically. There are no positives about this. So I mean, it should be abolished, and people really take this very serious.
Yeah.
Rosalinda?
All right. So for me, I will talk about the hygiene first. So there has been evidence that people talk about FGM being not done in a good environment and the health implications that come with it. And there's this argument of the fact that some countries have legalized it and now it's being done in hospitals under very good environments. But hey, two wrongs doesn't make it right. Whether it is done under good hygienic conditions or not, the person still goes ahead to suffer the pain after the whole thing. Whatever happens is irreversible. That's the most important thing. Whatever the person will go on to suffer can't be reversed, whether done under good condition or not. Let's talk about the unhygienic practices back in the days. They use sharp knife and stuff with no anesthetic applied. You have to go through the pain. I think if I was in that shoes, I would probably have died during the process because I have a very weak heart. Like I just seeing the knife alone will make me collapse. Or
Yeah.
just exactly. So these are things that really we should just look at the fact that for me, I am not concerned about how it is done, but the fact that the person under which it is done to goes through a lot of trauma if caution is not taken. Because I know back in the days, people don't even care about depression, don't care about this mental health. But I think if we had those systems in place, we would have had a lot of women going through mental distress, trauma, depression, all because of that. The thought of thinking about even going to the place alone could even let a person become depressed. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so Rosalinda, are you trying to say it's not reversible, or is FGM reversible after this sewing everything?
It's
Can it be reversed?
irreversible. I said it. It's irreversible. You can't reverse what has been done. It's irreversible. Once it is done, there's no way you could get a clitoris back and fix it back inside. The flesh that has been cut, unless of course you are telling me plastic surgeries. Even with that, we have people who have changed their sexual form, but it can't function as much as the original one that God gave you. So it's irreversible.
Wow. So, meaning it affects their mental health, I believe.
Yes.
Diane, what do you think? Does it affect their mental health?
Definitely, definitely. I mean, going through that kind of pain, that trauma and everything, I mean, you will go through some trauma, right? Where you might be having nightmares, you have like, I mean, people like this, they will tend to behave oddly because it's like everything is not well. Because some of these people are kids, right? And so, I mean, that being done to you at a very early age and being painful and everything, you will definitely go through some kind of trauma. And it's it's absolutely something that I would say I am strongly against. Because if you can do this to someone, I mean, it's just like me taking a blade and cutting or peeling off your skin, and I'm telling you that's okay. I mean, that's torture. That's okay. So you be fine. I mean, it's just not right.
And I was confused, why is she a teacher then?
Angela?
Yeah.
Yeah, what's your take on mental health?
Okay, so as Diane rightfully said, definitely there's going to be some mental health or psychological effects associated to FGM. So the immediate ones are normally trauma, as she said, because the fact that the whole process of you being held against your will, going through the pain of having been cut, and even like the healing process afterwards, it's not always like in hygienic processes or it's not done the right way. So there's going to be some trauma attached to that. And then this develops into long-term PTSD, where these girls grow up and they struggle to maintain relationships on the family level. For instance, they would feel betrayed by their families because their mothers or grandmothers probably walked them to whoever was supposed to cut them. I know they call them the wanzams. I think it's like a term, like a northern region term for the woman who cuts these young ladies. So they feel betrayed by their family for putting them through these situations, and they struggle to maintain relationships with men because they're not comfortable with themselves. They're not okay with being intimate because of the pain associated with sexual intercourse. So they would rather shy away from being in relationships in the first place. And even when they do get married, the issue of childbirth always becomes a problem because of how small the opening is. So it's very difficult for them to even get pregnant in the first place and then giving birth as well. They go through so many problems like anxiety, depression, memory loss, trying to forget what happened or intentionally trying to wipe out that memory from their minds. It becomes like a very long process of having to go through several traumas, um, things that probably should not be, they become very aggressive in a way that the little things that should not become a problem to them easily kind of sets them off because they're already going through so much in the first place. There's reduced social functioning. They don't really like to go out often because they feel they're worthless in a sense. They're not necessarily part of normal people because they've gone through these problems. They get sleep disorders, as Diane said earlier. They get nightmares. They get what we call somatization, where even when there's not a physical or a clinical condition, mentally, their mind tells them that they're going through something. So their mind attributes whatever is going on in there into the physical realm, and they start experiencing symptoms. They go through emotional distancing, as I said earlier. They struggle to form and maintain relationships, and there's a feeling of withdrawal because they feel nobody understands what they've gone through, or nobody can sympathize with them, or they don't even want to be pitied because they feel nobody can ever understand what they went through. So these are just a few of the symptoms that they go through, coupled with the physical problems of healing from these practices. So if we want to think about how to best help these women, I feel there are so many societies or organizations and even hospitals that provide mental health services. But as we said earlier, there's still a lot of work to be done in terms of awareness. There's still a lot of work to be done in terms of providing services, because some of these communities don't even have access to mental health centers or facilities. Most of these services are probably found in the cities or in larger communities. So we need to provide access to these services. We need to provide information for these young women, because when they get the information, they're empowered to make certain choices that would help them in the future. So all these problems have ways and means of being solved. But then I feel like because these practices are probably done in areas that are quite remote, the problem now is access. If access can be provided where these supports and these services can easily go up to these people, I feel like over time, even the people who are in charge of handling these practices would come to understand that times have changed. These practices are no longer as effective as they thought it was. And then through communication and through education, they'll be able to understand and reduce or stop these practices completely. So that's what I can say in terms of like the mental health.
Okay. Thank you, Priscilla.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Priscilla, for the deliberate elaborations. And I think Priscilla have said it all, and I think from her clinical psychologist perspective, that's exactly what happens. But there's this one point that I think it's runs across for women or girls who are subjected to issues like FGM. Is the issue of self-esteem and self-worth that goes along to cripple them and even denies them of the grace to persevere and be resilient to move on to the next stage of life. They find it difficult to heal, which affects their mental health drastically. I think it's FGM does not just affect the physical part of the girl to cause her pain, but it drains her, it takes away a bit of her. And that bit of her goes on to affect her in the next future in terms of her career-wise, in terms of relationship, in terms of bonding, in terms of persevering and becoming who she want to be, because she has been denied the right of choice of saying no and being listened to and being heard and being able to live the dignified life that she wants, and she couldn't access all of this. There's this feeling of, who am I? I'm nobody. I don't even have a clit. I don't even have feelings. I don't even think that I can even be able to do A, B, and C.
Yeah.
Because she thinks that there's no feeling of self-worth. And whenever there's that thing is missing from your life, even imagine yourself when you are going through hard time and your self-esteem is a bit low. That stage of your life, you feel like everything is just doesn't make sense anymore. And then a girl going through all this time of being denied, being taken away from, a part of her being taken from her, then she feels she's incomplete. So I think, as Priscilla rightfully said, we all have a role to play. We all have a collective effort to put into ensuring that even if someone confides in us and trusts in us and, come to seek for solace or confide in us to discuss or talk about these things, we should find ways, in our own little way, to provide support, provide solace, so that the person can be able to, regain her confidence, her self-esteem, being able to believe that she's worth more than anything. Come what may, should be able to move on in life, to be able to resolve and then get on to the next stage of life. So Prishla, thanks for the detailed elaboration on all of that. Thanks.
Okay. So Sandra has a few comments from the viewers from Facebook, and she would like to read them out.
Okay, so from Mike McKen, I hope I've said your name right. He says FGM may have lasting effects on women and girls who undergo FGM. The psychological stress of the procedure may trigger behavioral disturbances in children, closely linked to the loss of trust and confidence in caregivers. In the longer term, women may suffer feelings of anxiety and depression. Sexual dysfunction may also contribute to marital conflicts or divorce. He also goes on to say that FGM can never be safe, even when the procedure is performed in a sterile environment and by a healthcare professional. There can be serious health consequences immediately and later in life. Medicalized FGM gives a false sense of security. There are serious risks associated with all forms of FGM, including medicalized FGM. In addition, there is no medical justification for FGM. Advocating any form of cutting or harm to the genitals of girls and women and suggesting that medical personnel should perform it is unacceptable from a public health and human perspective, as it has serious health consequences immediately and later in life. He also says that trained health professionals who perform female genital mutilation, are violating girls' and women's right to life, physical integrity, and health. They are also violating the fundamental medical ethic to do no harm. So what do we think about what Mike has said? Dorcas, what do we think?
He said a lot of stuff. I heard so many things you read, but I think he was contributing. He was making contribution at confirming the fact that FGM is nowhere near. It doesn't matter where it is practiced, whether it's done in a hospital, a well-certified clinic, or health facility. It is still not right. And as we all agreed on earlier, it shouldn't be endorsed or be legalized in any way. Even if it is, I think it's a way of. I think who said that? Being able to use a knife to cut someone indicate that you'll be able to shoot at someone and kill the person as well.
Yeah.
Because if you are able to look at a fellow female and just tie her down and cut her clit with a sharp object, with a knife, with a blade, with whatever, then taking a gun and shooting at the person wouldn't be difficult for you either. Yeah, so I totally agree with Michael saying that FGM should its harm is dehumanizing, and we need to find ways to increase, amplify our voices, amplify our activities, our implementing strategies, amplify our channels of reach so that people can come to the point of realization that it is not right and we need to stop it.
Yeah, thank you so much. Rosalinda, please.
Okay, so I was so happy that he added this because I really wanted to add the part where he says sexual dysfunction can lead to conflicts and divorce. I was about talking about this because, and another thing I agreed with Diane when she spoke about the fact that when we are talking about things like this, we should include men, because some of the things sometimes men during sexual intercourse, both partners want to enjoy this process, not just one party enjoying it and the other person suffering it. From the woman's perspective, if she wants to please her man, she'd have to end up feigning certain months that probably she's going through pain, and she's just taking it because she wants to protect her relationship, she wants to protect her marriage. And the man's part, where he realizes that the woman is feigning it, loses trust in the whole process, and in the end, men who aren't with the end, there's conflict, there's distrust, and which they are the ones mostly affected, and which is not the right thing. So sometimes when I think about it, let's not just focus on the fact that women suffer. On another part, it should be the men. The men should also speak up, because mostly, if we would agree, they tend to want to know that yes, the woman is enjoying it as much as they are enjoying it. So if now that right where they can be able to show interest in what you're doing has been taken away from them, as men, why are you quiet? Like sometimes I wonder what type of men we had back in the days. The fact that you're sleeping with someone, the person is in pain, and you continuously do it. What are you gaining out of it? So men shouldn't just sit down. Like it is a collective responsibility. Let's all come together. Like speak against it. Let them understand that like if your woman is acting all right and she has been mutilated, then she is feeling it. And you shouldn't encourage more women to get mutilated.
Thank you, Rosalinda. Dorcas, so are there other measures we can do to sort of stop or delay sexual gas before marriage? Other measures aside FGM that is not inhuman or an abuse?
Yeah.
I want to ask, why do you want to tame the woman from enjoying her sexuality? Or in the name of you want her to keep her sexual desire for somebody?
Yeah.
Why don't we allow the woman to take ownership of that? Why don't we allow the girl to decide? Because it is her body.
True.
I recall
Can I
someone
have
tell me
Edith?
that.
Okay, Diane.
So
was it Diane
Okay.
that was
It's Rosa.
Let me quickly hop in. So
okay?
I think one of the things that happens in our society these days is that because of religion, because of culture, we tend to think that sexual desires before marriage is not valid. Right?
Yeah.
Sexual desires before marriage is not valid. See, no matter what, whether you're Christian, you're Muslim, you're Buddhist, wherever you're from, whatever religion you belong to, your sexuality won't go anywhere. Your desires won't go anywhere. It doesn't make you less human. It just means that you need to learn how to control, and you need to build a mindset around your beliefs, your values, but not that you would take away the sexual desire completely. It's not like that. You're human. Whether you're Christian, you're Muslim, you are still human. You're human. So it's very normal that you have sexual desires. It's very normal that you feel for sex. It's very normal that, I mean, you sometimes your mind is wilding. It's normal. And we need to accept that fact that we should stop this. I think it's too the hypocrisy of, oh, your sexual desires. It's something that we don't talk about, but it's there. Whether you like it or not, it's there, and you're human. And so it doesn't make you less human. And so you need to acknowledge that it's very normal.
Yeah.
And you just need to learn how to build mindset around it.
Okay.
okay, please can I come in?
Yeah.
Oh.
Sorry, please. So I saw someone's status. I saw this on someone's status that if you spend a night in a guy's room and he makes no attempt to touch you, or he has self-control, you should respect that kind of guy. And interestingly, someone responded, how about the other way around? Don't you think the lady also has some self-control? Which is true, because you always think that, oh, it's okay for a man to go out there touching girls and sleeping with them, but when a woman does him, it is not right. Is she not human as well? Does she not have blood running through her vein? Does she not have feelings? Does she not find a guy attractive? But they both learn to control themselves. So the same thing applies to both of us. It's all about self-control. If you don't want your girl child to go about having sex, marital sex, Educate her. Give her the information. Empower her. Let's understand that, hey, this is your body. This is called vagina. This is called breast. At a point, you'll be having emotional changes. And when the emotional changes come, these are the things that are likely to happen. However, you can choose to have sex, use protection, or you choose to think. You make all these things available. Give the girl the options. Let her understand the consequences of her actions. Out of that, she make the decision. You don't decide for her. Besides, she was born with all this and that. God made her so, like the way God made a man. So I think that let's not tame people. Let's allow people to explore. But let's give them the information and let them be aware of the consequences that comes with their action. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Dorcas.
Dorcas took the words right out of my mouth. The first thing I wrote down was sex education is important for both sexes, because I feel like education brings empowerment. And these things normally happen because young girls or these communities are not educated on what to do when they get to these points. Sexual desires are just hormonal changes that are part of the growth process. So when you educate your young girls or your young boys during puberty that these are the changes that your body would go through and this is what you can do about it, when they get to that point, because they have the education, they're able to make decisions based on what has been taught them, but they have nothing in the first place to work with. So our culture has kind of made it look like these things are bad in a way and should be frowned upon or should not be discussed in the first place. But how do you ensure that the wrong decisions are not taken if you have not provided them with the information or the empowerment in the first place? So just as Dorcas said, the moment these people start to get the education, they get to understand that I know this would happen if I have sex at this point, or I know I'm not financially stable, I'm not working, I'm not emotionally ready, I'm still young, I'm still not physically prepared to have a child or to have sex. So I can't do this now. This is because they know, they've been taught. So information has been given to them. But in a situation where there's nothing provided, they see these things as strange. They see these things as something so amazing that they have to try it. And that is where the whole issue of promiscuity comes in, because they never had the education in the first place. So it's like you touch something and it's so sweet and you just want to keep on going at it. But then the fact that it's sweet doesn't mean it's sweet for you now.
Yeah.
It could be sweet for you at the right time and you
At
don't
the
have to
right
wait
time.
for it.
Yes. Father,
So education is very important. I feel like if we have the education, we can empower these young girls to make the right choices. And this also goes to the men. I was so happy. I wanted to applaud Michael for his comment, because most of these women that go through FGM end up having very bad relationships in their married lives because they struggle to come to terms with intimacy and providing pleasure for themselves and also for their partners. So I feel like FGM kind of defeats the purpose in the long run, because if you're trying to prevent these young girls from having sex now so that they can enjoy their marriages later, they go in the marriages in the future and they don't enjoy it either. So what is the purpose of FGM in the first place? It defeats its purpose. So it goes on to tell us that even men who have wives who have probably gone through this process would probably tell you that it's not easy at home trying to talk to their wives about maybe having sex or enjoying it because of the processes or the pain that they have gone through. So these men should also stand up not only for their wives, but for their daughters or the wives their sons are going to marry in future, so that they can help eradicate this. I feel like we've gotten to a point where the awareness has been going on for decades. I remember I started hearing about FGM being banned since I was in primary school, and it's still happening. I think at this point, we should get to the point of force. We should take away the fact of awareness and bring in force, because it feels like more has to be done for everything.
You're muted. You're muted.
You're muted.
It's muted.
Ursula.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I just realized. So I didn't know where I ended, but then I was saying that more has to be done in terms of the government putting in force. They should go into these communities. Enough of the awareness. There should be more work done in terms of making sure that these women or these people that are practicing this are brought to book so that it serves as a deterrent for future people doing this. Yeah.
Okay, Rosalinda.
All right. Great. Thank you, everyone. But I think what I was actually looking for, somebody just touched on it a little. The question I wanted to ask was, who make the decision in the families? Isn't it the men? Most of these practices that happen is because the men are usually those who decide and the women follow. So usually I always tell people when we talk about teenage pregnancies, when we talk about things around women, we always leave out the men. They decide on what should happen and what shouldn't. Like women are cheating, let's do this. Then they instruct, go do this, do that. And in the end, women are those so some of these talks of how can we stop who do they do it with? Men. So why do we have to be the ones to preserve ourselves? Why do we have to be the ones to protect ourselves? Why do we always have to be the ones sacrificing? What about the men? So for me, my first answer would be the men should stop having sexual intercourse until marriage. Men should stop. Who is the one going into one stopping? And firstly, it's I know if you look at research, the first person to always make the intercourse and all that, the first person most of the time is the man making the first move. So why can't we center most of our topics to them, especially when it comes to these young individuals who can't even make decisions for themselves? It's usually the elderly men going under their panties. Why can't we re-strategize our campaigns to tell men to stop going and trying to get under their panties, trying to convince a lady to sleep with you? Why can't we like change our topic? Why should we always be we the ones like, oh, why must I be the one to tell him to stop? Why can't you also tell him that he has to stop? Another thing is that from inception, men have always been the decision makers. Like, oh, women are always at the receiving end. Enough of it. It is now the time for us to start talking for ourselves, making the decisions for ourselves. If we come together as women and say, hey, now you say that I have to stay chaste, or you want me to be a virgin. How can you have sex? Like most men have sex every time. They are not. How can we even determine that a man is a virgin? There's no way of determining that, and because of that they just take advantage of us as women about the fact that you have to stay chaste. Enough is enough. Like if we women begin to appreciate ourselves enough and realize that we do not have to prove ourselves to men for anything, and equally we don't force men to prove themselves to us, so why do we always have to be the one proving ourselves every single time? Yeah, agreed, it is difficult being a woman in this world because first of all the Bible says we must be submissive and all that. There's a lot of religious things that always say women should always be quiet and silent, but now is the time for the world to also understand that things have changed. And if you want to keep on preaching about chastity, about sanity, agreed, there are several effects that comes with sexual immorality and exploring and having fun, which involve the STDs and stuff. Yes, we can quite as well say that there's protective measures, but still, how sure are we that we are really safe out there? How can we as individuals, I'm not saying that I disagree with women exploring, but yet still, how can we be extremely careful? It is not women, all of us. So usually I'm always like, why is it always the topic about women? Why can't we make it about us? I think as we continue talking about these topics, we always end up making a big division between male and female, and that makes them, we give too much power to the men that they don't even realize that the problem comes from them. It always makes it look like we are the problem as women, and that isn't the case. So now, I don't know, for all of us going out there to talk about women, to talk about issues related to women, let's make it about us so that the men too can contribute. I know there are dozens of men who equally feel the pain of women and would gladly step in. So first off, if we are going to talk about how we can prevent sexual immorality or women from exploring, it is not women, it is us. How can we stop ourselves from engaging in this? In the first place, who decides what is right and wrong? Who decides? Right now, if we're going to talk about who decides what is morally right and what is morally wrong, it's usually the society. But sometimes the most important thing, even society can say this, but the decision and the final choice is we as we get to decide at the end of the day. You decide whether he's going in or so. It's all up to we individuals to decide what is right for us at that particular point. If you feel that engaging in sexual intercourse won't have any effect on you and you're with it, like, fantastic, go ahead, fine. But where it has effects, where we have pregnant, allow children, allow girls to explore, allow boys to explore. At the end of the day, it is the woman who is mostly affected. So let's re-strategize our topic, probably to let men understand that they are taking away a lot of opportunities from women. The fact is not, the problem doesn't lie with us as women, but we, the entire gender, both male and female, we all have a contributory factor. So if you are insulting that a woman is not modest, she's not chaste, you are equally the same because you are going beside her back to sleep with another woman. So it doesn't make you different from us. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosalinda. So what can we do to create more awareness about FGM and to abolish it completely? Diane?
Okay, so I would say that just like Rosalinda said, inclusion, right? Inclusion. Everyone that has a listening ear must hear what we have to say, right?
Yeah.
We've moved from the part where we say, oh, we're just women fighting for this, we're women fighting for that. We've moved past that point, and just as Priscilla said, we've had a lot of education on FGM. We've had a lot of education. It's in our textbook. I mean, we learned it from primary school. So there's been a lot of education. But the thing is that those of us that are educated, what are we doing with it? We need to take it to the places that are less privileged and educate them as well, because maybe they might not have the privilege that we have. So we need to go back and educate them. And then there's this thing on culture. How the question I've been asking myself throughout this whole thing is that this is a cultural practice. How do we get these people to understand that this cultural practice is not good? How do we get them to come to the point where they say, okay, this is not good, so we are giving up? And I mean, anyone that does this, we're going to report it to the authorities. We are not going to take our children to anyone's to do anything. We need to understand that some of these people, what has happened around them is that they have built a culture such that it's like you need to be socially inclusive. Like you need to be included. If you've not undergone the process, then you are not accepted. You are not accepted in the society. To the point where even some women are actually considered as men when this is not done to them. So I mean, for such a place and you not having this done to you, you don't feel inclusive. You don't feel socially included. You always feel like, oh, then it means there's something wrong. I need to get this done, right? And I mean, sometimes when a lot a lot of people around you are echoing the same thing, it becomes very hard to have your own clear thought. Even no matter the education, unless you are not, I mean, you are okay with people talking behind your back, saying things. If you're okay with that, then, but we need to get to the point where we say that, okay, this is a cultural practice. How are we tackling it from that angle? Because this is still going on. When the former president Rawlings made the declaration against FGM, it was 1989. Look at how long it's been, and it's still being practiced today. It's still being practiced today. So we need to, I think that the education is a lot, but then we need to find a way to tackle it from the cultural perspective. How do we go to these people and tell them that, you know what, we know this is your culture and you've been doing this for years. How are we even going to get this done? How are we going to get these people to come on the same level with us? This is what has been running through my mind. And I mean, I think I would throw it for all of us here to maybe say something about that.
Thank you, Diane. Priscilla.
Thank you, Diane, for your thoughts on that. I kind of agree with what you said as well. I also believe that, yes, there has been like several talks on awareness and speaking to these communities, but then I feel like the dialogue should most importantly be between the agents of these changes. So like the community heads, the people in charge of making rules and regulations in these communities, because sometimes you educate the students or the young girls or the people that probably go through them, but the choice is not really in their hands. So they might know what is right or wrong, but they can't really go away from the practice, or they can't really hide away from these practices because they don't have the final say in the long run. So the dialogue should be between the agents of change, and they should also know that
I
Hello,
think Priscilla's
Priscilla.
next.
Yeah.
We'll go to
Priscilla.
Rosalinda. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Sorry. Okay, so yeah, I think I quite agree with what she just said. Definitely we have to tackle it from the grassroots level, deal with the people who get to make most of the decisions in the community. And most importantly, also talk to the men, let them understand that it's a collective responsibility for both for all of us as individuals to help. If we want to help save, to protect the women and also protect the men as well, because we all get to benefit if we are all right. They also benefit from it. So inclusion is very important. We need to include everyone, the parents involved, those taking the girls from the homes to the person who does the whole cutting and all that. We need to educate them to understand. Some people will be like, oh, so stuck to the past beliefs and culture. Don't forget what your evolution, the impact, and also we as humanity, how people envision us. Sometimes it's like, oh, there's this saying that don't care about what people say about you, but we have to let people understand that there are certain moments where you have to really care about how people view you, the kind of opportunities you are losing because of what you continue to do. So even if somebody have help for you, but because of what you do, you might lose it. So people really have to understand like the impact for the impact at which what they are doing really affects them as a community. It paints a bad image of the whole community that you come from, that, oh, this community, they do this, which is illegal, which is not nice, this practices. So please, if people were coming to stay over, they'll be like, no, this community is this and this might happen to me. So we have to let people understand how the world views them as individuals, how inhumane that is, and how the community can come together collectively to say no to it. And we too can also advocate, take advantages of our social media platforms. Wherever we get a platform to speak, let's talk about it. I think it continues to happen because like people are saying that, oh, this thing doesn't happen anymore. I don't see it happening in my community. But that doesn't mean we can't talk about it. Even though it is not happening around you, you are not affected. Somebody elsewhere is being affected. And the more you talk about something, the more you create attention and the more people get to notice and it is addressed. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosalinda. Thank you for your thoughts. Dorcas.
Hi, everyone. That was
Hi,
a
Dorcas.
passionate submission from everyone. Yes, I think everyone has rightly said it, and I think collective efforts, just as our theme for the year says, no time for inaction. So we need to unite, act, and also fund activities or whatever we could do to end FGM. But I think one thing that we could also consider doing to end FGM, in addition to all that have been said, is I was thinking we could leverage on eyewitness stories or probably survivors of FGM. Survivors of FGM in the sense that they have gone through the process, they understand how it felt, they have experienced the challenges and the consequences that they went through after the process, and they could be mouthpiece to advocate and also cause change. These people could serve as community watchdogs, and as community watchdog, they could go in and out to fish out those who are still practicing this inhumane act and then report them. One thing I'll use as a reference point is an implementation strategy that is being used by African Ghana to help address issue of SGBV, and that is the community volunteer strategy. And this strategy is that they have people in the community who serve as trust and reliable source of refuge, source of education, source of, let's say, watchdog, who goes out to fish and identify perpetrators of perpetrators of GBV, and then they address them. So then if you're able to identify survivors of FGM who are willing to speak, who are willing to be watchdogs, who are willing to perform these grassroots duties, then we know that we are making headway. Because of course, education is being made. We need to act now. We need to make sure that our strategies are revised in a way that it's helping people to stop the practice. If we need to arrest them, let's arrest them. If we need to charge them and put them in cells, let's do something to make people aware that we are not just talking and speaking and doing nothing about it, and that we really mean business, and we are really ready to go out to attend to anyone who go any way out of because the law of Ghana is against this. Legally, it is not legalized in Ghana. We don't endorse it. So anyone who is caught practicing FGM or taking any girl child through this inhumane act, I think the person deserves to be arrested and prosecuted. Thank you.
Priscilla, would you like to continue your comments?
I think it was like a network problem. I don't know what happened, but this is Ghana, so we move. Yes, so as I was saying, I think like the court action has already been done, and we've had years and years of awareness and dialogue, and we're still seeing these practices happening day in, day out in different communities. So it's time to put in some force now, because sometimes I feel like you need to put in some necessary force to get the reaction you're looking for. So if these community heads, if these chiefs and people who are supposed to be agents of change in their communities are not putting their efforts together to help end these practices, then the length of the law or the full arm of the law should be dealt with in these communities, because that is the only way the changes that we're looking for can happen. So we should work with the government, we should work with NGOs, we should work with support groups, and even like access to healthcare services for these young women who go through these problems. There should be access to psychological support, there should be access to educational support, there should be access to empowerment, to so many things that can help even the people who have already gone through these problems, just help them get back on their feet and also prevent it from happening to other young girls. I'm sure these young women that have gone through these problems can be better advocates because they've been through the process and they know what has happened to them and how they have had to deal with these problems over the course of their lifetime. And this is not something that just happens and goes. It's not like a regular sore or injury that just heals within a few months or years. It's something that follows you throughout your entire life and affects so many aspects of your life. So they knowing what has happened to them and the effects or the consequences of these actions, they'll be better advocates in supporting or pushing forward the banning of FGM and its related practices. So that should be the way forward. And I feel like more pressure being applied to these communities or these people in charge would yield positive results.
Thank you, Priscilla. Thank you for the insights. I have a question for Dorcas from the Explorers Club. PA Ghana and UNICEF. And how do we join as individuals and as the Explorers Club? Dorcas?
Yes, please say that again. The question again, please.
Yeah, I was saying, what is UNICEF Ghana and FPA Ghana doing about FGM? And how do we join as individuals and as a club as well?
Okay, so if I got your question right, you were asking how Explorer or individuals can join UNFPA in the fight against FGM.
Yes.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah, can you hear
Okay.
us?
Yes, I can hear you now. Okay, so currently UNFPA in partnership with other UN agencies like UNICEF is implementing a couple of projects at the grassroots level in partnership with government and also CSOs, I mean civil society organizations and NGOs, in ensuring that adolescent girls are empowered. Issue of FGM at the grassroots level are also addressed, and this individuals as well as Explorer can also join in doing that. So currently we have a new project called Buame, and Buame is an SGBV project targeted to ensure that perpetrators or victims could have direct support in terms of psychosocial support, legal support, medical support, and if there's a need for prosecution for justice, UNFPA with support from other legal organizations can then reach out and provide the needed support to individuals and survivors. We are currently receiving applications from organizations who are willing to volunteer to provide these supports to survivors. So of course, if you are willing to join or support, you can just send in your application and then we'll add you to our pool of volunteers. Thankfully, we have a center that is being established. In the first quarter, hopefully we will launch the center where people could call in and report the cases of SGBV or receive support from UNFPA in partnership with DOFSU. So we're working on this. I think Explorer is already part of the team. However, individuals here who are willing to contribute their quota in the fight against SGBV, which FGM is a part of, could also join force to, help us do this work. So yeah, that's what we can do together. And we look forward to working with everybody, individuals, NGOs, CSOs who are working hard at the grassroots level, hard at every part as individuals in being your little way to help address SGBV and FGM together. We are in this together, and I pray that before 2030, we could reach the zero tolerance against SGBV. Against FGM, as we've always been fighting for. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, then we'll get in touch with you after the discussion then.
Sure.
Okay. So we have a few comments. There are not a few. There are actually a lot of comments from Facebook, but we have limited time. So I'll just read a few of them and then we end the discussion. Is that cool?
Yep.
Okay. So this is a comment from Ladona. I hope I pronounced it right. Landona Samikwe. He said, the most annoying bit of this horrible practice is the fact that those people who participate in the cutting ostensibly kill in quotation marks, sexual desires in girls are the same ones raping and defiling the girls. Such a stupid hypocrisy. And Rosalinda, do you agree with Quay, Sammy Quay? Hi, Rosalinda. I think she's off. Priscilla.
Hi, yeah, I think he was right in a way, in the sense that, like I said earlier, FGM defeats the purpose because sexual immorality or sexual promiscuity is something that happens on both sides. So it's a both male and female thing. So if they are mutilating the women, why don't they mutilate the men as well? Because both men and women have sexual desires. And sometimes these young girls don't necessarily or go into these practices. They're probably raped or they're cajoled into doing things. Because normally these young girls are probably between the ages of 5 to 15 years. There's no way they can consent to sexual practices at that particular age. So they're just subject to rape or being forced to have sex against their will or their consent. So why don't we do something about the people that are actually raping them as compared to the young people being raped? So that is a question that should be put towards or should be put forward to the people that practice these things or that advocate for the practice of these things. If they can give us a good answer, maybe we'll go back to the drawing table and then rephrase our fights and come back again.
Yeah, I think so too. Diane?
Okay, so I absolutely agree with Priscilla.
Rosalinda, welcome.
I agree with Priscilla with what she said, that we if they should give us a better reason, then we will go back to the drawing table and come back and see if we have to restructure our fight, because this is actually very serious. It's not a laughing matter. It's not something that, I mean, we should take lightly. We should be strong with our voice. We should be strong with our intentions. We should be very solid with whatever we want to do, however we want to take part in this impact. We should be solid about it, because I mean, when people are being raped, and these people are, I mean, they don't have the sexual desire, so it's like, to the point where sometimes when someone wants to have sex with them, they have to actually go and use a knife and try and cut, because it's not, I mean, that is just absurd when you think about it, because even to the point where it's just like they leave about 2 millimeters, sorry, 2 millimeters, which is like this small. And so the man cannot penetrate, so he has to use a knife, or she has to go to the midwife in her community to cut. I mean, it's a bit, we really need to take this serious, and we need to be strong with our voice.
Thank you, Diane. Rosalinda?
Sina, I don't know if I got the question right, but he was asking as to whether men too can be mutilated, right?
No. What he was saying was
Okay.
the people that are mutilating the girls are the same people that are going to rape them as well. Yeah. So I was just asking what your take was before you went off.
Oh, okay. So for me, I muted myself, sorry. So honestly, what I think is that they are the same people that are going to rape them. But the problem here is that, what are we doing about it? Like, these are things that have happened or yet to happen. So if they are the same people that are going back to commit the same crime, then it ends up not serving its purpose. Is it Priscilla that said it, that like then it loses its purpose in the first place, that what they are trying to prevent, they still end up doing the same thing that they said they wouldn't do. Like, they are trying to prevent the girl from doing, because mutilating a girl doesn't stop a man from raping the girl, because rape has been happening at a time even before that. Like, it's something that has been happening. So I think it's all the issue of humanity, conscience, and also we also sitting back to think about the fact that when I say we, I'm not talking about we as women, but we as humans, in quotes, to think about ourselves, the things we do, and how it impacts the society in which we live, and how it impacts our own families. Because whatever you do unto somebody else, family member, it might end up also happening to your siblings. So I still believe that it just boils down to our human conscience, and the fact that we should always think about the fact that whatever we do doesn't only affect the person. If it is revenge or something, whatever we are doing to hurt another person, it doesn't really affect them, but it ends up creating, it's a whole cycle. It comes back hitting at us even more harder than we expected it would have.
Rosalinda?
Hello?
I think you went off again.
Yeah, sorry about that. So basically, like, for now, that's the only things I can think about. But I think as we progress, we are almost ending, I'll draw from what others have to say and probably conclude.
Okay. So one last comment from Mike McCain. He said, I think we need to empower young people to end FGM in their communities, or else we are doomed, especially in this COVID times. And I think that's true. What do you think, Dorcas?
I totally agree. I think Michael has been very committed and dedicated to this discussion, which truly shows the fact that we need to engage men in discussing issues like this. It's not only women's stuff, it's for everybody, both men and boys and girls and the whole nation. And thanks, Michael, for your commitment and your dedication towards the discussion. And I agree totally with Michael on the fact that we need to educate girls and adolescents, especially on issue relating to FGM, because in these COVID times, we know that there are restrictions on movement. There are issues of limited access to health. Hello? Can you hear me?
Can hear you, Dorcas. Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, so in this COVID times, the restrictions and on movements leaves the girl no choice but to stay at home. And at home, she has nowhere to go for refuge. And in times like this, FGM can happen to anybody because the only place of refuge is the home, and it's in the home that these practices happen. So I think that we shouldn't even just focus on FGM in isolation, but we should talk about SRHR in totality, relating to adolescent puberty, the changes that she experiences, how the human reproductive system work, how the changes come, and how to handle these changes when you're experiencing them as young people. This will help empower the adolescent girl and also make her be aware of the fact that this is not, these changes are normal and she needs to embrace them and be able to handle them well to avoid future complications. So yes, thanks Michael for participating and for sharing your thoughts with us. I'm actually impressed. Thanks.
Diane?
Okay. So I agree with Michael on empowering the young ladies, empowering the girls with education. The necessary information. I agree with that, but I also want to say that as Priscilla mentioned some minutes ago, that it's not entirely on the, how would I even put it? It's not entirely on the girls. It's not entirely a matter of the ladies, because I think most of us here have been educated on FGM. We know what it is. It's in our textbook. We've seen it. But we need to go to the grassroots of where this is happening and talk to the change makers, right? The people that will influence the change. So, I agree with that. And it's absolutely important that as a woman or as a young lady, you need to learn about your reproductive system. You need to know every single thing that is happening to you, your changes and everything. I even have a book here that I recommend to like most young women. It's called Every Woman. I don't know if you can see this, but it's called Every Woman. It's actually very insightful, and you can get it at any bookshop. It's very insightful. It helps you know more about your body, learn more about the changes that happen and why it's happening. And sometimes people feel like it's certain things happening to them is not normal, right? But the thing is that they lack the information. So I absolutely agree with Michael that we need the education. We need to put ourselves in a position where we understand what is happening and how to control and how to do other things. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Priscilla?
The other panelists have said a lot. One thing that kept ringing in my mind was safe spaces. I feel like just as the UNFP and other organizations have centers in these communities that provide health services to them, they should kind of turn these centers into safe spaces for these young girls, because at this point, I'm sure most of them get to find out even before it happens that the family is planning on doing this, or it's time for them to go through these rites, and they sometimes need someone to just talk to. They need someone to listen to them. They need someone to provide some sense of comfort for them. And these safe spaces can help them shield them from these practices, because it's actually backed by law to prevent these practices from happening. They can protect them. They can call the police maybe on their families or on whoever is supposed to undergo the practice on them. They can have some form of support for these young girls. So we should focus also on strengthening services and creating safe spaces for these young girls and these young women to be able to go out there and report if they hear conversations in their families about things about to happen to them, or if they know anyone who has gone through that, or if they've already gone through it and they need help afterwards. They should be able to have safe spaces to go report these things. Because sometimes, even if it happens and they get the right source of healing in terms of maybe access to the hospitals to be able to help treat any infection that happens, it doesn't become any long-term problem that becomes difficult to solve. So all these happen if they can talk to the right people right as it happens. So safe spaces are also quite important in helping to eradicate or to completely move away from FGM.
And the last contribution from Rosalinda before we end.
All right. So for me, I quite agree that it is very important that we empower young people. Yeah, we are the most affected in this, and if we don't speak up for people to help us, then we'll end up suffering alone without people even knowing that we are suffering. So it is a collective responsibility, not only from us as young people, but for us to speak for others who can't or don't have the platform or the voice to speak up. There are a lot of people who suffer from these things, but they don't even know who they can go and speak to. So I agree, we need a safe space for them, a place they can walk to and talk about their pain, tell them this is about to happen to me, and without getting into trouble or their families taking them on that they went and reported. There should be that kind of place they can rely on and believe that like they'll be protected if they report this injustice. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We've come to the end of our discussion on FGM. I'd firstly like to just say a huge thank you to everyone, all the panelists for joining us. Your knowledge, your information was truly a blessing, because there was some things that I didn't even know, and I've literally just been educated. So I'm sure there are other people who have been watching that have also been educated. So thank you so much. I also like to let you know that this is also being streamed on YouTube as well, which I didn't know, but now you guys know. So you can also stream it there. And yeah, I feel like to end it all, it's all about the hashtag zero tolerance. So anywhere that you go, just put that somewhere. And even if you think that someone might not see it, they will. Trust me. As the more that you do it, the more people will get to know of it and ask questions, and that's how it starts, really. So let's all come together and stop FGM, because it's not right, as we've all said. So thank you so much, and we hope to keep in touch with all of you. And if there's anything that you want us to do to help, anything that you're doing, your initiatives, anything that you're doing, just contact me or send out anyone on here. So yeah, that's it, guys. Thank you so much. And to the audience as well, thank you so much for watching. Your messages, your contributions have all been great. And yeah, God bless you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for having us.
You're welcome.
Thank you for having
Have a
us.
lovely evening, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.